Good day and God bless you, and welcome to the Bible reading in chronological order. Just such a privilege to have you all with us. We thank the Lord for each of you. Thank you for participating with us in the reading of the Word of the Lord. And I pray that the Lord would give us insight into His Word, that we may learn more of Him, that we would see Him in and through His Word. Now, up to now, we've done Genesis chapters 1 to 11. But today we're moving into the book of Job. Now, the reason we would move into the book of Job is we believe that the book of Job was written during the time of the patriarchs. Now, there are a few reasons that we come to this conclusion, and I'm going to briefly state these. Firstly, the age that Job lived to. We know that people during that time of the patriarchs lived till quite an old age. Secondly, is the animals that are described in the book of Job in such a real sense are not really described in later books of the Bible. And then also the ethnicity of Job is not mentioned. And so we believe that it is before Israel was a nation. So Job is regarded as one of the oldest books that is in the canonized scripture. And we see that it is placed within the books of poetry. I prefer C.I. Scofield's description that it is one of the books of wisdom. And yes, when we look at it, there is a lot of poetry in the book of Job. But when we look at the wisdom within the book of Job, not the wisdom of the friends of Job, but the wisdom that comes in the book of Job and the realization of the way that God works, even though it is so different from the way we perceive how life should be. And so we're going to look at this and we're going to go through it, and we're going to come to this core theme within the book of Job. And the core theme consists of three very important questions. The first of which being, is God just? And we're going to grapple with the justice of God. And then we're going to look at the second question, which is, does God rule justly? And then the third question, how do we comprehend Job's suffering through the book? And if we come back to these questions all the time, it's really going to help us figure out what is happening in the book of Job and how the Lord has put this all together so that we can understand something very big outside the realm of humanity, in the heavenly realm, and how perfect and how brilliant that is. And so we very briefly will look at the context of the setting of the book of Job. And the strange part is, the only definitive point that we have for the setting of the context of this book is that it happened. There is nothing else given to us. We don't know what time it was. We don't know where exactly it happened. And all this, as I've said, is for a specific reason, because it does not matter. This applies to all of humanity throughout the ages, in any tribe, in any land, any nation. All of us have to grapple with these questions, and we do grapple with these questions. And so the book of Job lends to us the understanding of what is happening on a different dimension, and allows us then to interact with this so that we can get a better understanding of all that is happening in the book of Job and all that is happening in our lives as well. Obviously, we do not get to the level of testing that Job had to go through. But it is given to us in this way, where Job was tested so vigorously. And so then we all coming in under that can realize that there is something bigger at play. And this is not a cookie cutter gospel, if we can say it in this kind of way. So let's get into chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2 set the scene for us and allow us to see that there is this upright man. Now, there is something very special about Job, because when we look at the heavenly realm, and it very beautifully opens up with the heavenly realm and tells us that the Lord is now boasting in this man to say, there is none like him in all the earth. And he actually challenges Satan to an extent. And so the devil, after walking to and fro in the earth, he comes and he says, well, I can make this guy turn against you. And so the Lord allows him the leeway. And I mean, it's very descriptive, so you can look at it in the description. But one thing that we have to realize is that Job does not know what is happening in the heavenly realm. All Job knows is that he is being tested to a level that he feels he cannot even bear. Now, how he reacts to this is absolutely amazing. Imagine having wealth, having a family, having all of these things, losing your wealth, losing your children. We can't even imagine the strain that is on him. And then when the Lord speaks well of Job again, here the devil starts attacking Job's body. And we see then that even Job's wife, who also lost all of her wealth, lost her children, and now is watching her husband wither away, she's brought to her knees and makes this claim, why don't you curse God and die? We do not understand the thing that she had to go through. And it is so difficult. You know, when we go through a trial, it's one thing. When you watch your spouse or you watch your family go through a trial, it is so much more difficult. So imagine what Job's wife is going through before you call her to judgment or before you call her out in this way. Just remember, she is going through something very deep. And here, Job is brought down to nothing. And in all of this, in every bit of trial that Job goes through, his answer and his response is, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I don't think any of us can understand that resolve that it took, the trust and the confidence in God that it took to make that statement at this time. And then we get to chapters 3, 4, and 5. And these chapters deal with Job's friends who had come to comfort him. And we see then how they dialogue between each other. So in chapter 3, we see Job's lament of his life. Job is crying throughout what has happened. He is speaking to his friends about all that has happened and sharing the ordeal that he has gone through. And then in chapter 4, we see the response of one of Job's friends, the response of Eliphaz. And Eliphaz actually says to Job, the innocent do not suffer. And then in chapter 5, Eliphaz continues and he explains how the foolish suffer and that God is faithful to his own. God will not reject his own. God will not allow his own to go through so much suffering. So what have you done? Only the foolish suffer. Only those that are wicked will suffer this kind of punishment. So this is opening the door now. And as we go in through chapters 6 to 31, we're going to see something very deep start to open up before our eyes. But this is where we're going to leave it for today. I pray that the Lord would bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May he give you peace. God bless you as you enjoy the reading of the word today.
The Book of Job, Chapter 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God, and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job, and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabaeans fell upon them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, and behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Then Job arose, and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground, and worshipped, and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Chapter 2. Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movedst me against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord, and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God, and die. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What, shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place, Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off, and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent every one his mantle, and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Chapter 3. After this opened Job his mouth, and cursed his day. And Job spake and said, Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, There is a man-child conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it from above, neither let the light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. As for that night, let darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Lo, let that night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Let them curse it that curse the day, who are ready to raise up their mourning. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none, neither let it see the dawning of the day. Because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from mine eyes. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Why did the knees prevent me, or why the breasts that I should suck? For now should I have lain still and been quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest with kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves. or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or as a hidden, untimely birth I had not been, as infants which never saw light. There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary be at rest. There the prisoners rest together, they hear not the voice of the oppressor. The small and great are there, and the servant is free from his master. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul, which long for death, but it cometh not, and dig for it more than for hid treasures, which rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave. Why is light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom God hath hedged in? For my sighing cometh before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters. For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet. Yet trouble came. Chapter 4. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, If we essay to commune with thee, wilt thou be grieved? But who can withhold himself from speaking? Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. But now it has come upon thee, and thou faintest. It toucheth thee, and thou art troubled. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and the uprightness of thy ways? Remember, I pray thee, who ever perished being innocent? Or where were the righteous cut off? Even as I have seen, they that plough iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. The roaring of the lion, and the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perisheth for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. In thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before mine eyes. There was silence, and I heard a voice saying, Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his Maker? Behold, he put no trust in his servants, and his angels he charged with folly. How much less in them that dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, which are crushed before the moth. They are destroyed from morning to evening. They perish forever without any regarding it. Doth not their excellency which is in them go away? They die, even without wisdom. Chapter 5. Call now, if there be any that will answer thee. And to which of the saints wilt thou turn? For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. I have seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I cursed his habitation. His children are far from safety, and they are crushed in the gate, neither is there any to deliver them. Whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh it even out of the thorns, and the robber swalloweth up their substance. Although affliction cometh not forth of the dust, neither doth trouble spring out of the ground, yet man is born unto trouble, as the sparks fly upward. I would seek unto God, and unto God would I commit my cause, which doeth great things, and unsearchable, marvellous things, without number, who giveth rain upon the earth, and sendeth waters upon the fields, to set up on high those that be low, that those which mourn may be exalted to safety. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope in the noonday as in the night. But he saveth the poor from the sword, from their mouth, and from the hand of the mighty. So the poor hath hope, and iniquity stoppeth her mouth. Behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. For he maketh sore, and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. And thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, and thou shalt visit thy habitation, and shalt not sin. Thou shalt know also that thy seed shall be great, and thine offspring as the grass of the earth. Thou shalt come to thy grave in a full age, like as a shock of corn cometh in his season. Lo this, we have searched it, so it is. Hear it, and know thou it for thy good.